Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Number brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Allie Russell.
And I'm Carlina Sample.
And we have wonderful tennis player and human being, Kenner Taylor, here today to discuss a topic about what it's like to leave a legacy here at Texas A&M and the impact that we as athletes hope to have on our team, the program, and the university as a whole. So, Kenner, thank you so much for being here today. We're so excited.
Thank you, guys. It's really exciting to be in the studio and to be with you guys.
Yeah. Aww. How are you doing?
Man, it's been, with finals coming up, it's been a little bit stressful.
It's final season.
Always love to be able to take my mind off of that and to come do podcasts.
Yeah. We're glad we could be your study break.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, you guys know how busy it is.
Oh, yeah. So it's like the crunch time now.
It is absolutely
the
crunch
final
time.
Stretch. But
yeah, I feel like a little hermit crab just living in my little apartment. I go tennis and then I come back home and I'm just studying. And that's it. So,
yes.
I know.
Not
almost done.
Sunlight,
final stretch. Right?
Yeah.
Final stretch. So Kenner is a senior on the men's tennis team. He's from Houston, Texas, and for high school attended Houston Christian School. Recently, earlier this week, won the Distinguished Letterman Award.
Yeah.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Which, for those who don't know, the Distinguished
Distinguished
Letterman Award is the highest honor given to a student athlete in their time here at Texas A&M. So huge congratulations on that, Kenner.
Thank you.
So excited.
He is a recent Maroon Coat class of 16, an SCA leader, and also a podcast host of his own podcast called Aggie Greats, which we will ask you more about later, and you can tell us more about that. But just to get started, Kenner, we know that you are very passionate about Texas A&M, a true Aggie. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got to Texas A&M and what got you started in tennis as well?
Wow. So it all really started back when I was 10 years old, really. I had kind of been playing tennis earlier on, but I didn't really realize that tennis was kind of like the passion that I had until I actually came here, started coming to the A&M tennis camps, and I was probably just as tall as this table, so super short. And it's funny because all the current coaches who are coaching here are still my current coaches.
Oh, that's so cool.
So my coaches have known me for 13 years. And when I first came onto the team, when I was like 10 or 12, I got to be roommates with one of our coach's sons. And so I got close with him, and I just fell in love with the university, fell in love with camp. And I still remember when I was like probably 12 or 13, I'd been coming to camp a few years. I asked the coaches, I was like, what does it take to play for the team? Like, I want to be here. And they kind of laughed me off because at that point, I mean, they're top. I mean, our team's always, when I came in, we were 8th in the nation. So, I mean, just obviously A&M athletics is extremely competitive. And so they laughed me off. They're like, all right, you need to be top 10 in Texas. And so I had barely even started playing tournaments and was trying to figure out how to even enter a tournament. But as I kept coming back every single year, I'd send them updates. I'd be like, hey, I'd top 100. Hey, I'm top 50. And then I actually got to the point where I was top 10.
Oh,
that
and
is so cool.
Which was kind of fun. And so
cool
by that time, I realized that I was old enough to realize that even if you're top 10 in Texas, you aren't really necessarily that competitive to play for the team. Just for reference, when I came onto our team, we had a guy from England, Australia, Bolivia, Italy, all over Europe. We have guys from everywhere, and so they're recruiting extremely heavily. So even if you're top 10 in Texas, that's just kind of a small fish in a big pond.
Right.
But they'd kind of see me going through, and my junior year of college or of high school, they called me and said, hey, like, we know you want to be here. We like you a lot, but you're not where we need you to be to play for the team. And so that last year of college, I was like, well, last year of high school, I was like, all right, I'm just going to enjoy it. And then tennis is over. So I was fully planning to come to A&M and just be on the club tennis team or just be a normal student. And I think that took a lot of pressure off of me. So I started playing super well because I was like, all right, I'm just going to enjoy the last bit.
Fun of it.
Ended up beating one of the guys who's also on my team who's graduating this year at these courts. And that kind of opened the door. And they're like, all right, we'll give you a shot. And so now, redshirted freshman year, didn't really play sophomore year, junior year, had a really awful fall. And then they threw me in at 2 doubles. And then from there, just played really well, played with Noah, ended up playing number 1 doubles for us and ended up top 15 in the nation last year, which is really cool.
So amazing.
I know, that's awesome.
That is really cool.
Definitely a dream come true.
Yes.
And so, I mean, that's part of the reason I love being here, being part of A&M is just like, I'm not supposed to be here, but we're here, so
No,
I'm
you
enjoying
are
it.
supposed to be here.
Yeah, you are.
That is so special. I feel like that's a pretty unique story in
Yeah,
comparison
really.
to what we have heard
Yeah.
before. And I love that. And I think that goes also to show your discipline and your passion and your work ethic too. And the fact that like you kind of faced all those adversities head on and look at where you are now. And kind of talking about, you said like senior year, you were expecting that it was going to be over with and you still wanted to come here. So how has that been for you being able to represent Texas A&M as a student athlete now?
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. I think that obviously I've kind of always had school as the priority, which probably the coaches aren't super pumped about. It's kind of like your life is tennis.
Yeah.
But I think it's been a really good balance for me being able to actually have something outside of tennis or outside of your sport in general, because if you get so sucked into what I'm doing 24/7, just only on one thing, I think it's really good for some people, but if it's not 100% your passion and you don't 100% know this is where I want to go long term, you need to kind of diversify and have things outside of your sport that keeps you grounded.
Yes.
And so I kind of learned that early on, which was really great. Had a lot of good friends and mentors, not only just teammates who kind of helped me realize that, but also just people outside who were just like, all right, I think you need to just take a break. You're thinking about tennis too much. And it really helps to just have your mind in different places. But yeah, representing A&M has been so cool. I still remember the first day that I got my box of clothes and you see your name.
We got like Christmas in August.
And you see your name. You see your name up on the locker, and you meet your roommates for the first time, and the rest of the guys on the team are coming in. It's just like those are the moments you remember, and you just remember like kind of like every time I walk in the locker room and you see your name up there, it's like wow, like I have my own locker, and so it's just things like that you just try not to take for granted. I think it's really easy to you spend 4 or 5 years here, and you're just like, all right, I'm just another day. But it's trying to always have that mindset of like, whoa, this is like such a cool opportunity to be here, and it's an honor to be able to represent A&M. So it's just trying to keep that mindset all the time.
Yes, definitely one you have to grow into.
Yeah,
100%.
Sure. Definitely one you have to learn.
It's so easy, I think, to take those things for granted. As simple as getting the gear and the clothes, and I'm like, now, oh no, I will never be able to get that much gear in one time without dropping too much money that I don't have. It's like the little things. I feel like when you come into school, it's so easy to take things for granted, and the older you get, the more you learn, and you can sit and be so grateful and just take it day by day. We talked about things like that so much, like just being grateful and like being where your feet are every single day. And
I love that.
Being able to represent a university like this is really exciting. It's really special, and it's a very unique experience in comparison to other places. And you are, I love hearing your story about everything. It's just so great, and I feel like it's really special.
Yeah,
really,
I
really
agree.
special.
I feel like Allie and I both understand what you mean when you say the importance of getting involved in things outside of your sport, because it can just be the release or something different. Like you said, when you're in season especially, your days can get repetitive with whatever sport you're doing, so it kind of just diversifies your days in a way. Can you talk about some of the parallels that you've seen in your experience between being on the tennis court and being there for your tennis team, and also being responsible for whatever extracurriculars you are involved in outside of your sport? What connections are being made there? Like, what lessons can you bring onto the court or take off and bring into your meetings? Like, do you see any?
One of the biggest things that I learned when I first stepped into Maroon Coats this year, Tyson Vocal, he's the guy who runs everything for Maroon Coats and for the A&M Foundation. And he kind of boiled down Maroon Coats to 3 words. He said, see the need. And I think that mindset as athletes, where everybody's kind of, we have trainers, we have staff, we're like, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Are you feeling okay? Versus like, and you're so used to it coming into you, but like putting that out and be like, how can I see the need with my team? And especially with tennis, it's a very individual sport. So it's really easy to be like, my success is the most important thing. Right. And as I've kind of learned, if you could win every single match on your own, but if the rest of your team isn't doing well, you lose overall.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do I see the need with the rest of the team? And I think kind of the part of the mindset that I had to really work with coming into college was this idea of how do I lead and how do I serve when I'm not necessarily on the tennis court, because I redshirted my freshman year. I wasn't able to travel on all the trips. I spent a lot of time in College Station just by myself. And what I learned is that there's so many other ways to lead and to serve than just a player sport. And I think everybody who's injured kind of realizes that. Everybody who's redshirted realizes that. And I think that it's honestly been so impactful to be able to realize that you have a much bigger impact on the success of your team than just simply playing. And once I started to learn that, and I was like, oh, if I cheer this loud or I say this thing to the other guy to break him down, then it actually has an impact. Or I can, just bringing, oh, one of my teammates, his water's low, let's refill that. Just seeing small things and just, not obviously looking for any sort of like appreciation or whatever. It's just like, okay, I'm just trying to help make the guys better, help make the team better. And then once, so I spent the first 2.5 years of college doing that. And then once I started to actually play and compete, that's when it started to be like, whoa, like, okay, this is cool because now I can do both. So I've kind of seen both sides of like, okay, this is what it looks like to lead and to serve by playing. And then this is what it looks like to lead and serve by just being on the sidelines, but being the best player on the sidelines that I possibly could be.
I love that. I love it. And it reminds me of something that I've heard, and I could not tell you where I've heard this, but you do not have to be a leader to be leading. You just change the ending. And someone said that one time, and I was like, dang, I really love that. Because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with if you're not in a, like, when I say position of authority, like if you're not a captain or if you're not like in a leadership position, then it's difficult to feel like you can lead. But it's like there's so many things that you can do to be leading people, and serving and showing your kindness is like such the start of that. And I feel like it probably shaped a lot of perspective for you too when you then did finally start playing. And it's like you did so many things in like behind the scenes. Like you were just like pouring into people, and then like just to be able then to be in a position where you're playing and can still do that, that's so great. And I feel like learning these things about you, I'm like, I love this. I'm like, this is so great. It's just really special. And like kind of talk about what for you, like, why do you think that you have so much gratitude towards A&M and towards your team?
Man, it's tough to kind of boil it down to one specific thing, but the first thing that kind of popped into my mind when you said that was just like realizing the fact, well, obviously being at A&M was always my dream, and so just being able to wake up every day and like be and do my dream is really, really cool. But I also have realized as I've been in college, and you guys probably experienced the same thing, when you have younger players come to watch your match, or you have high school and middle schoolers, and they're like, oh my gosh, like you're an A&M tennis player or an A&M athlete, and they're like, can I get your signature? Can I,
it makes you so much more excited. It's
and
so sweet.
It made me realize, and it kind of reminded me of myself when I was kind of that age. And what I realized was that there are so many people, there are thousands upon thousands of people, not just here in America, but around the world, who would give up everything to be in the spot that I'm in right now. And so recognizing that while I have this spot and while I have this responsibility, it's my responsibility to leverage that to the best of my possibility, because there's so many other people who don't have that opportunity. And so recognizing that, and recognizing that I'm going to use this to the best of my abilities. And obviously not every day works that way. Not every day is possible. But, and I think a big piece of that kind of came this past over Christmas. I got to go to the Dominican Republic with Mission of Hope, which was really cool.
So great.
And
We've
so I was
both been
there.
on a trip. We love those trips.
Yeah.
So
I got to be there with a ton of just athletes, which was a lot of fun. And it's fun to see all of them get all the track. The track people are insane. Cross country track, they're up at 5, 6 a.m. just running laps over and over and over. But when I was there, you just see the kids who were able to find so much joy. Like you bring them a soccer ball and they're like, oh my gosh, like this is the best thing ever. And just to see their joy, I had no clue what they were saying. I took Latin in high school. And so they were all speaking Creole and like Spanish slang. And so no idea what was going on, but still able to build relationships, still able to see them. And so many of them, when you ask them about what America is like, they're like, it's the land of opportunity, and it's like there's gold everywhere. And obviously that's not necessarily true, but there's so many kids who would give up a lot to be where we're at. And also I'd say that these kids are able to find joy in the little things. So as soon as I came back, I realized, we were talking about getting the clothes, and, the first year you're like, oh my gosh, everything is maroon. And then you kind of get 2 or 3 years of clothes and you're like, okay, I have too much now.
Right.
But you start to go through and you're like, oh, like this is medium instead of a large, or, oh, these shoes, like they look a little tacky, or, you just start to
nitpick.
Yeah. You start to nitpick and you're like, you don't really realize how blessed we are to have this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there were kids there who didn't even have shoes, and they were just running on concrete and all scraped up, and that was it. Or they had flip-flops that were way too big for them, and it made me really realize that, like, I hope I never come back to A&M or really live life with this perspective of, taking things for granted, because I've seen what it looks like to not have all that stuff given to you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of where a lot of that mindset came from.
Yes, I love that you said that, because we were literally talking about our experiences on that trip, because they have one coming up for this summer, right?
A new spot.
Yeah.
Are you going to the new one in
I'm
May?
not going. I can't go. I have to be.
I know.
I have to go to my brother's graduation, and I'm so sad that I can go, because
I don't
that's
think
one
I'm
thing.
going anymore.
You can't go
You're not
anymore?
going?
I don't think I am. There's
Maybe
just
we
so
can
much
go in the
going on at
fall.
home. I
Yeah.
know. That's what I'm thinking, maybe.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to go next semester.
Yeah.
Over Christmas.
I'm going to be here
We can all
anyway.
go up
Yeah, we
there.
can go
We
together.
can all go.
We'll all go together.
Yeah, we should.
No,
But
but-
I've been to the Dominican on a separate mission trip.
Oh, okay,
Too.
cool.
I think that's kind of what we were.
Yeah, we were.
going off
Well,
of.
we were talking
Okay.
about the same
Yeah.
thing that you just
Yeah.
said, is just being able to appreciate the little things, and how
Yeah.
much that trip humbles you.
Yes.
From when you leave, the mindset you have, and when you come back, the mindset you
Yes.
have. It's just completely a 180 of what maybe your priorities were,
Yeah.
or
Oh,
what your
for sure.
complaints were. And even yesterday with my roommate, I was talking about, like, just being able to be thankful for what we have, and for the situations that we are
Yeah.
in, because when it comes down to it, a lot of the things, speaking for myself, I can only speak for myself, a lot of the things that I may complain about or find is a challenge is not that deep in itself,
Yeah.
and when you put it into perspective. And that's also something I've learned from Maroon Coats.
Yeah,
So
of
shout out
course.
Maroon Coats.
Yeah.
But I love that you said that, and I think that's just a great attitude, and it
Agreed.
does allow you to just appreciate things, and kind of like just look around and be
Right.
thankful
Yeah.
for where your feet are in that
Yes,
moment.
100%.
Yeah.
I do think it's really easy, kind of like what you're talking about, because I found myself doing the same thing. You become nitpicky
Yeah.
on things that you are so fortunate and blessed to have
Yeah.
that, like you're saying, many people don't. And I remember too, there was times that we got shoes and I'm like, ooh, what color is that?
Yeah.
Like, what are those? And I mean, really,
designed
truly,
this?
it's like, yeah. And it's things like that it's really sad that your like mind kind of shifts to that perspective
Yeah.
where you can look at things and be so critical, where it's like, wow, I'm so lucky that I have these things, or that I'm able to play this sport or be in this position and in this platform. And that is such an important shift in your mindset to have. Like, and I think it changes your whole experience overall, because you then are able to leave your sport, you're able to move on to the next thing and be so grateful that all of that happened, from the minor details to the major. And that's something I feel like that it just completely shapes your experience and allows you to leave in such a positive light and leave such a legacy too, I think.
Leaving a
Leaving
legacy.
But I also I want to hear from you, what have been in your time here at A&M, what have been some of your favorite memories on and off the court field? I was about to say field, sorry.
No,
Field's
you're
ingrained
good.
in my head.
The soccer.
Yeah, the soccer field. But what's been like your favorite memories on and off the court that you've had?
Man, I think there's so many. I think it's really fun to be here at A&M, and I think that there are just so many moments. I mean, beating Florida was a big one for us. They've always kind of been our rivals. And my freshman or sophomore year, when they knocked us out of the Elite Eight, like to beat them this year, to beat them last year in doubles was really, really cool, because that's what got us into the NCAA tournament, which is really fun. And there's so many. It's funny because you think about the big moments, the ones that you see on the highlight reels and all that. And I think that a lot of my favorite moments are just in the locker room, or kind of behind the closed door.
We get that.
Where-
Or when you're
Seriously.
traveling on the bus, or traveling on a plane, or
it's
something
so
like
easy
that.
to focus it on the big things, but there's so many little moments that are like, oh, that's so special.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I try to remember the little moments, and I think it's funny because when we travel, I feel like we just always find a way for we have a running joke on our team that we always get in at chew, because the French guys and the Italian guys can't say the number 2. Aww. And so we're always getting in at chew. And it's funny because we just make it a running joke at this point, because there's always some sort of thing that like goes wrong.
Yeah, something happens.
And so a lot of my memories in college are just like the nightmares of just like, oh my gosh, like what are we doing at this airport at like 2 a.m. or we just have so many like bags getting lost.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do?
How do I play tomorrow?
So yeah, exactly. And it's just funny because you look back and you're just like you're with all the guys, and it's not that bad, but at the moment it's like, oh my gosh, like, everything's ending.
You're freaking
out. So just funny moments like that. Our team just does a bunch of fun games with punishments, and so just sing all that stuff, all the freshman year stuff, and it's just so much fun. Just like I said, all the little memories, and they all really add up at the end of the day.
Yes.
Locker room memories.
You have me really emotional right now. I'm like thinking of all the laughs that we had, and I'm like, oh, you are so right.
Yes.
You're so right.
It's definitely like you said, the big moments are great, but I think the most memorable is that you're always going to look back on and remember in time are those small, intimate moments that you have with the team in the locker room or on the bus, or like you said, traveling in the airports or in those like stressful situations at whatever moment
Where are we?
Exactly. We all get it. Okay, Kenner. Well, now we're going to take a little break to hear from our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll hear more about Kenner and a few extra things that he's been up to this semester.
Welcome back from our commercial break. We are going to jump right back into it with Kenner. And Carl kind of talked about this at the beginning when sharing some of your accolades and things that you're doing, that you have a podcast called the Aggie Greats. So tell us about that, and tell us about who some of your favorite guest interviewees have been.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool. So the Aggie Greats podcast is technically my senior capstone project for business honors and for university honors, but once I started it, I just kind of like fell in love with the process, and I was like, whoa, this is so cool. So the premise is to get into like the minds, habits, and lifestyles of some of the most impactful leaders, coaches, high performers here at A&M. And I started out, and it's really funny because when I first started, Dr. Lauren Craig was my very first guest. She's amazing.
She's so great.
Yeah. And when I first started, I was just like, all right, what's the lowest commitment thing I can do for this senior project? I was like, a lot of people writing papers, presentations. I was like, I'm just going to record myself saying a few things and then publish them. That's a podcast. I'm done. And I reached out to Tyson Vocal, who I mentioned earlier was the kind of ran the A&M Foundation. I reached out to him and I was like, hey, would you like to be on? He's like, hey, I'd love to be on the podcast. I also want to introduce you to the CEO of Exxon and the CEO of Roku, both of whom were Aggies.
Crazy.
And that's when I started to realize, and this was like when I first started the podcast, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this could actually be something really, really cool. And so I haven't gotten them on the podcast yet, but it really opened the door for one of the coolest guests, Colonel Mike Fossum. He's the VP of A&M. He's an astronaut who spent 194 days in space. He came on the podcast. I don't even know why. I'm a random college student at A&M, and he's running between the A&M Galveston campus and this campus, and he was like just sat down with me and shared all of his wisdom, which was so cool. And one of the fun parts about kind of this idea of like Aggies help Aggies is just how cool it is to see like you meet one really cool Aggie and then they connect you to like 3 or 4 more who connect you to even more. And so now I have like too many cool Aggies because I'll publish an episode and people are like, oh, have you thought about interviewing this, like General Joe Ramirez, just different Aggies here. And I'm like, okay, wow. Like, so, I mean, getting Nathan Drain on, one of the Yale leaders, he was so much fun.
Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan, getting him them on. And then just what's fun is just getting those people on and then getting to engage with their community, because they have so many cool people, and I think a lot of it, even like their friends, their family, their parents, like, oh, I didn't even know parts of their story.
Right.
And I think it's funny because when you asked about what I was trying to do after I've done the podcast for a little over a year now, and people are like, okay, like, what have you learned? And when I try to like summarize what is an Aggie great, a lot of what I've kind of come to realize is that an Aggie great isn't necessarily the CEO of a big company or somebody who kind of, we were talking about the big moments.
Right.
Like, it's not necessarily somebody that you see on the front page of Wall Street Journal, but it's oftentimes the 12th man, the person who's behind the scenes, suited up and ready to jump in whenever people need help. And that's kind of the mentality I've had. The first part of college, when I wasn't competing, was just kind of like, how can I be ready to go when somebody needs me? And so,
I love that.
yeah, so I've learned a lot.
Shows, like, it just shows the intentionality that
It's
you've
been fun.
had,
Yes.
and creating the podcast, and also shows just the reach of the Aggie Network.
Yeah, it didn't start off with like the best intentions, but it's here
But
now.
yeah,
I was like, let's cut some corners, and now it's like, oh my gosh, I'm spending so much time doing this.
That's so nice.
But it also
yeah.
turned into something you learned that you enjoy. And
that you're
and
passionate
hopefully,
about.
and hopefully keep doing after.
Yeah.
I mean, because I'll be presenting on it for tomorrow, going kind of like the big senior capstone final part, but hopefully next year continuing to do that, continuing to meet NFL players, NBA players, and just it's been so much fun.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Good luck on your
Thank you.
presentation.
I appreciate
Yeah, I think you're gonna do
I know
great.
it'll go well.
If it sounds anything like what you just
I have
said,
too much to talk
plus.
about with
It'll
it.
be good. Yeah, you have plenty of
Yeah,
content.
too much to talk
It'll be
about.
great.
That was like your little pre-run.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm ready now.
And if something goes wrong, we'll talk to your professor.
That was considered studying.
Yes.
We're good.
So
ready.
on top of this podcast, so earlier this week was
Yeah.
the Legacy Awards on behalf of the athletics department. And like we said earlier, you were a Distinguished Letterman Award winner for this year.
And nominee for
And
like
nominee,
5
yes,
other
for
awards.
a whole bunch of other things apparently, right? Allie was getting
Don't know who
questions
put me on
about
this
him
list.
on the screen
Taking
again.
mental lists as you were popping up on the screen for every award. I'm like, there he is again. There he is again.
It's rigged. That's
Tally,
right.
No, it's
tally,
not.
tally. But tell us, like, what did it feel to earn that award?
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's funny because I had a lot of people text me after, and I was like, I definitely don't feel like I deserve this, but I'm like very honored to have that award. And I think it was really cool throughout the whole awards. This was my first time being able to go to the awards ceremony, just because it's always during NCAAs and whatnot. But being able to, with all the other awards that were given, just see just the amazing things that Aggies were doing with Aggie Achieve, with Munsey's doing some amazing stuff, getting to see different athletes who are doing amazing things, and then to actually get up to go there and be like, whoa, I'm in the same category as like somebody like Julia Black, or the same category as who also got the award,
Right.
Or other people who just I look up to a lot of those people, and so it's just cool to kind of be in that same group, which definitely don't feel like I deserve that, but
You
it's an
100%
honor.
deserve
And so it's just really fun because it's one of those things where you're like, how can I give? And giving with nothing expected in return, and then it just there always finds a way to like have more given back than you could ever give in, which is awesome, and why I love A&M so much.
Yes, I feel like that kind of shows what you were just talking about in your definition of an Aggie great.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's just the fact that like
I'm an aspiring Aggie great.
yes, you're
I
gonna
think
interview
you already
yourself
are.
eventually.
I really
No.
think you already are, Kat.
Hopefully, if I
Yes.
surround myself around enough Aggie greats, then I'll get a little bit closer. But
I think some people would deem you an Aggie great now.
Yeah.
But just that feeling of you are just doing work out of the goodness of your heart and giving back just because that's what you want to do, and then to get rewarded for it. And like you said, like maybe you weren't expecting it, or
Yeah,
you didn't feel like
definitely not.
you deserved it, but just to feel that other people around you are noticing what you
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. I like that feeling
Yeah.
too. Like
Yeah.
I don't know, you have to appreciate that. How did that make you feel? Like kind
Yeah.
of were you surprised that you won?
I was
Were
definitely
you-
surprised I won. It's funny because I saw the other names and I was like, oh, it's for sure. I was like, literally everybody else is like, oh, yeah, I definitely understand why.
Yeah.
But I think just it was fun to be up there and just to see my team over on the right and like, cheering for me.
right.
And just
Yeah.
looking, just realizing, working through traditions night and through just different things with athletics, just seeing how many people I knew in the audience and how much like I've spent 4 years here and just how many friends and like basically feels like family at this point. How many
Yes.
people I've gotten to meet and build relationships with, and see them at Slocum and just like be a little piece of their life. It was just so cool to be up there and be like, wow, like all those people, like I'm friends with like all of them, which is awesome.
Yes. Oh,
I love
that too.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people screaming. They said his name. We're all like, yes, yes. Going,
Gianna's up
so
there
hard.
like so loud.
Oh,
yeah, of course. She's
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
She's gonna be here next week.
Oh yeah, we're bringing her on too.
Surprise guest.
But tell us also, for you, how do you feel like not only being an Aggie, but also being able to be a student athlete here? How has that helped shape you into now the person that you are today?
Yeah, I think that when I joke about when we're in athletics, and I'm just like, we're like, our coaches expect us to be athlete students, and usually, or just athletes. You know, you kind of miss the student part of things.
I still have class.
Yeah, you're like,
that's so true. That's so true.
And so having the student athlete part of it and making sure like student stays at the first part of that sentence and it's like student athlete has really been good. I talked a little bit about how it keeps you grounded, but I think that there's so much that just crosses between, like, there's things that I'm learning in school that's like, oh, I can apply this to tennis. Or
Carl's literally talked about that.
Whether that's leadership or whatnot. And then also you have things in athletics that are like, okay, how do I manage stress? How do I manage my time? Just realizing that I physically don't have enough time or energy in my life to study everything that I need. So how do I prioritize, and how do I and through some of the people I've had on my podcast, I've just learned that not everything revolves around school, and I think athletics like keeps you balanced in that. But you know, just realizing that the amount of work that it takes to get a 90 versus like 100 on something is so much more than the work that it takes to get like in that 80 to 90 range. So like recognizing like, okay, where's my threshold? What am I aiming for? And then being willing to sacrifice these extra points, and obviously like do everything to the best of your ability, but like recognize that the relationships that you build here, the friendships that you build here, the things that you do outside of athletics and school really are the things that you're going to remember. They're the things that are going to carry forward outside of college. And so it's like, okay, those are the things I need to be prioritizing and staying on top of. And
Absolutely.
I think that's why service and doing things like maroon coats and all that, like that's outside of all those other things, but it keeps you grounded. And those are the people and the things that you're going to remember long term.
Yes.
And I can easily sit here and say that you 100% are an Aggie great. And you also are leaving an incredible legacy here. You really are. Like I think that it's not only to do with the fact that you are an athlete, but it's more so to do with the fact of who you are as a person. Like you really are a great human being. And I've known you, so I've known that, but sitting here, I'm sure everyone who's listened can recognize that and see the legacy that you are leaving. It's not, you don't only just have the award, but there's a lot that goes into the award that you won too. And it shows with who you are.
I agree.
And it's really, really special.
Ditto times 100.
That means a lot.
You deserve it all. You definitely have a bright future, Kenner.
Thank you.
And like Allie said, you just have a great soul, great personality. You love to give back. And we know that's going to take you far, far along in life, and we can't wait to see it. One question.
I know we didn't warn him.
I know it's okay, but I feel like he's gonna come up with a good one on the spot.
Right,
so one question that we always, you look a little nervous.
I'm a little nervous now.
You're like, oh.
I saw Allie's reaction. I was like, oh, this is gonna be a tough question.
No, it's gonna be fun. It's we always ask our guests if they could put their college experience into a cheesy tagline. What would it be?
And it doesn't have to be like super cheesy funny, but just like little kind of synopsis.
So we'll give you some time to think.
It's really funny. We've had a running joke on our team, especially with Noah, who's our team captain, and we always say "what a day," which is really funny because what a day. It's funny because you can say that as like it's just been like an exhausting day, and you're like, oh, what a day. Or it could be like, whoa, what a day. It's just so many different ways you could say that, but it kind of summarizes college because you kind of live moment to moment. And then we get here to college and we're like, oh shoot, we have like less than 2 weeks before I walk across that stage. And so recognizing like, whoa, like this day is so important, and how can we summarize, like how can I put everything I want to into this day and then tack that onto the next day and set up this day so that tomorrow's is a little bit better than the day before.
Right.
So that's just kind of like
I love it.
the college
And
summer.
he had no problem.
I
He
know.
was like,
I
all
told you he
right.
was gonna come up with a good one.
Yes,
Like,
I love that.
What a day.
You kind of
What
made
a
me.
day.
Is it weird that made me almost emotional? Because I was like, wait, we do have only 2 weeks left. I'm like,
I know.
Is a tear forming?
I've
No,
been
May
looking.
came up
It's like a
fast.
countdown, but also it's like a happy countdown.
Yes.
Like yes, no more
It's
exams.
bittersweet.
No more work.
But then it's like,
so bittersweet.
oh my gosh, like tennis is over, and
Yeah.
like I'll
It's
still be
so
here for my
bittersweet.
masters,
Right.
which is exciting.
Yeah.
But it's
Right.
like, oh my gosh, like a lot of stuff is coming to an end.
Yeah.
We are
Yes.
growing up
Yeah, I still need to stay a kid.
day by day.
Not ready to grow up too fast. But
I know. Slow down.
yeah,
Slow down.
honestly.
Okay, Kenny. Well, like we said, we've had a great time with you on, and we just really appreciate you coming on and being honest and sharing your stories with us and being just so vulnerable and letting us kind of take a little bit of a deeper glimpse into what your life is
Yeah.
like and what you're involved in. And good luck at
course.
NCAA.
Yeah, thank you. This was
Yes,
fun.
good
We
luck.
hope that it'll all go great, and good luck on your presentation and the rest of your finals as well. With that being said, is there anything else that you would like for the audience to know or you want us to talk about?
Man, I think that, I think the biggest thing that I wanted to reiterate, just kind of from just, I think there's a lot that I took from Tyson and from Maroon Coats, and I really think that like see the need is the biggest thing that I'm hoping that, I think it kind of encapsulates the core values at A&M, respect, excellence, leadership, loyalty, integrity, selfless service, but it's like, that all encapsulates into this like these 3 words, like see the need. And so I think that like Aggies naturally do that, but I think that sometimes, especially during finals and when things get stressful, it's hard. Like, it's really easy to forget that. So
Right.
just like encouragement to remember to see the need, look for ways that people, just look for ways that you can serve, look for ways that you can help other people, and then just like obviously don't expect anything in return. And I
Yeah.
think that if we have the Aggie community doing that, the people who listen to this podcast, which I know are millions of people,
millions.
yeah, millions.
Millions around the world.
Just all the people who listen to this, even if 1 or 2 of them do that, I think that it just kind of continues to share the Aggie spirit and just what it means to be an Aggie. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Kenner. Shout out Tyson.
Well-
Good
Maybe he's
recap.
watching
Yeah.
and he'll.
Yeah, Tyson.
we need
better
you
be
on,
watching.
Tyson.
Tyson,
Please
I know.
come on my podcast.
Give
please.
side eye to the camera. Tyson.
Yes.
Tyson. Yes. Okay. Well, thanks, Tyson. Tyson.
Tyson. He's in there.
Okay, I really
He's in
hope
the
he's
brain.
watching. If he is,
Oh
that's
my-
so awkward.
We'll
I
email
thought you
this
were
to
doing
him.
that on purpose.
No.
And it was really making me laugh.
Now he's just stuck in my head. I need to like go see him now.
We have
Yes.
to meet Tyson
Yes.
now.
Yes. No, thank you, Kenner.
Yes.
a true Aggie great. And thank you to everyone else for listening. And we will see you guys next time on Behind the Number.